Hello, welcome one and all to A Stitch in Time. Today is Friday, January 29th, 2021, and this is episode 169. My name is Carol, my Ravelry name is Knits and Pearls, and I'm coming to you from the Fraser Valley of British Columbia, just a little ways east of Vancouver. I'd like to say a huge thank you to all of you who reached out with good wishes for the health of our family. If you are new to the podcast, first of all, hello, welcome. Thank you for watching. Second of all, our son-in-law recently contracted COVID-19 from a coworker and has been quarantining with our daughter and their children. And I am very happy to report that our son-in-law is doing much better and in fact was cleared to go back to work today for the first time. And amazingly, the rest of the family has remained healthy. I am not quite sure how that happened. They do not live in a really big house, and they had spent quite a bit of time together before our son-in-law began exhibiting symptoms. But I'm not going to argue with it. I'm just going to be extremely grateful. Now, they're not 100% out of the woods yet. I know our daughter, she tested negative a few days ago, but she still has to remain quarantined for a few more days, and then the kids have to be quarantined for even longer. So even if they were to either develop symptoms or else have it and be asymptomatic, by the time they return to school, it will have run its course. In the meantime, I'm just so thankful that it was a fairly routine case of COVID-19 for our son-in-law. Definitely had a few bad days, but since then has been recovering well. So, dodged one there. It is going to be a chock full episode this week. I have a new finished project to talk about. The observant of you may have already guessed what that is. I have a couple of works in progress that I can show you some progress on, and I have a couple of new projects, and I even have some acquisitions. So settle in if you haven't already. Grab yourself something to drink, maybe a little nourishment, and yeah, let's get started. So before we get into all the nitty goodness, I would like to remind everyone that the Making Time for Me craft along is taking place in the Ravelry group. This is a craft along that's open to everyone. Whatever craft you are engaged in, whatever kind of item you're making, whether you finish it or not, whether it's a work in progress or not, the whole aim of this craft along is just to get together, spend some time together, chat about what we are making. And the main goal is that you, in a time, it's the new year, and many of us are spending more time at home than we normally would. Many of us are spending more time at home with other people than we normally would. So I encourage you to find a little bit of time every day and indulge in the craft that you love, whatever that craft might be. This cal is running until the end of February. I will be drawing posts from the chatter thread and awarding prizes after that point. I'm still up in the air about what exactly those prizes will be, but as soon as I figure it all out, I will let you know. All right, so shall we talk about that swallowtail in the room? Ta-da! I have finished my swallowtail sweater, and I could not be happier about it. Because it's a little bit hard to show you with me sitting here, I've recorded a little segment about it. I'm going to pop that in here, and I'll meet you on the other side with some works in progress. I am so happy to finally be able to show you my finished swallowtail sweater. So here it is in all its glory. I'm going to do a little spin around so you can see it from all angles, and then I'll talk to you a little bit about it. So here it is from the front. And here it is from the back. I think the back color work is equally as beautiful as the front. So Swallowtail is a pattern by Jamie Hoffman of Knitosophy. As you can see, it is a color work sweater. It has a circular yoke and then also features color work here at the bottoms of the sleeves and then also here at the hemline. It's constructed seamlessly from the top down. I knit the third size, which is supposed to measure, after blocking, 38 inches in circumference at the bust. Mine measures closer to 36 inches, and I currently have a 37-inch bust. Kind of goes up and down a little bit as I gain and lose weight. So right now it has just a touch of negative ease, but I'm really happy with the fit. I prefer a more form-fitting sweater to a baggy one, but I don't want it so tight that all my little lumps and bumps show. So I think this has a good amount of ease in it and will be fine too if I lose a few pounds. So I used 4 colors of Fiddly Dye Works Merino sock. This cranberry color is Adira. The dark brown here is Julian. This main color is Sophie, and then this cream color has little specks of yellow and pink in it is called Olivia. I knit the pattern more or less as written, except that I did add a little bit of length in the body to accommodate my long torso. And then I took some length off the sleeves. They're supposed to land about here, but I prefer mine more of a wrist length. So that's what I did. The pattern gives you an option to do some waist shaping, which I did do, and I did it as written. They have it take place a little bit in from each side seam, and there are 2 sets of increases and decreases on each side of the front and back, and I just think it gives it a really nice shape. Trying to think if there's anything else to say about it. Other than I love it. I like the way it fits. I love the colors. I love the design. It doesn't feel itchy. I just love everything about it, and I can highly recommend the pattern. It is very clear, well written with good charts. So there's my Swallowtail. Okay, works in progress. I have continued working on the Vapor Socks by Helen Stewart. This is the last pattern in the Handmade Sock Society 3 that I have to knit. I'm knitting this from, where did my little yarn label go? In fact, I don't think I have it for this one. This is from Black Cat Custom Yarn, which is a local to me dyer, in the Everyday Sock in the Dratini colorway. So as you can see, I have finished sock number 1. It's top-down construction, 1x1 twisted rib, this lovely lace pattern down the front, plain stockinette back, traditional heel flap and gusset, rounded toe. And I think it's a pattern repeat and a half to do on the leg before it's time to do the heel flap. That would be 18 more rows. So like most Helen Stewart patterns, it's interesting but simple to knit. It doesn't require too much brain energy, but a little more than just plain stockinette. So my goal is to finish the second sock up hopefully by the end of this weekend, because next week is the release of the 4th Handmade Sock Society, which I have signed up for, and so I want to sort of be free to cast on a new patterned sock. So yeah, coming along nicely. These are why is it that when I actually decide to talk about my needles, which I rarely do, I can't think what they are. They're Carbons. I'm trying to think of the brand. Knitter's Pride. There you go. These I'm knitting on a 2mm needle. Some of you ask me those kinds of questions, and I don't always think to tell you. I always think gauge is such a personal thing that I might knit on a 2 millimeter because my gauge is fairly loose, where others might use, 2.5 or 2.25 millimeter. Anyway, coming along nicely, enjoying those. Really love this color. It's so beautiful. And speaking of that color, I am going to show you my longest night shawl this week. I told you I wasn't going to show that to you unless I had reached some milestones, so that should be a good indicator. This is the longest night shawl by Lori Law. It is a huge lace weight shawl. It is knit from Willy Wonka merino silk lace weight. There's the label. Willy Wonka fibers. It's a 50% merino, 50% silk blend in the Solstice colorway. I cast this on, I think it was 3 years ago. 3 years ago on the winter solstice. And I've been pulling it out every winter to do a little bit of work on it. And I decided that I'm determined to actually finish it this year. And I have set myself a goal of knitting on it for approximately an hour each morning. That's the first thing I knit on when I get up with my first cup of tea. Some days I manage 2 rows. Some days as it gets longer, I'm only managing 1. And it might not take me a full hour, but I sometimes choose not to then do the purl row back. I actually, last week when I podcasted, I had already finished the second chart. Last week I had actually finished the 3rd chart, but because the pattern was the same as the second chart, I didn't bother showing it to you. But now I'm on the new chart, and so I actually have some progress, and it doesn't just look like the same old, same old. So first of all, I'll hold it up like this. You can see how huge it's already becoming. And then I'll show you the new patterning. So this first patterning is the swirling snow pattern. And you can see I've transitioned. Maybe there, that's a good place to put it. Into the snowflakes pattern. So you can see some diamonds forming there. My next row that I do, I'm not sure if it's here. No, it'll be, up around here. There are some cables that get done, and then you carry on with more diamonds. So I'm really glad I decided to do this, to knit on it every day just for a little bit, because I can't believe how far I've come in just a few weeks. And all of a sudden this project doesn't seem so undoable or unmanageable or too intimidating. I used to look at it and just think, oh, I'm never going to finish that. It's so huge. But bit by bit, it's getting done, and it's just going to be gorgeous when it's finished. So I have to repeat this 32 row chart 3 times before moving on to the final chart. So maybe what I'll do is show it to you again when I've finished the chart for the first time. I'm about halfway through it now. So a couple of weeks from now, probably, I'll show it to you again so you can see all those diamonds. So yeah, super, super, super pleased with how that's going. And sometimes you can get, well, I know I can get really tired of a project, but that's just enough every day. Like, I don't dread it, I don't regret it, I don't think, oh, I wish I was working on something else now. I am quite happy to kind of wake up with this, and it's just become part of my daily routine, and it's working. So that's good. I'm happy about that. I have my sister's cup. There's the 5 of us there. This was a gift. Lipstick. This was a gift from my oldest sister to all of us. I've showed it to you before, but I keep forgetting about it. It's up in the cupboard. I usually end up using my David's teacups, but today I decided to pull this one out. So, once I finished Swallowtail, I gave myself permission to cast on a new sweater. And I had so many to choose from. Actually, the first thing that caught my eye, so I thought I knew what I was going to do, and then I changed my mind. I was looking through the new Knit Picks catalog the other day, and I came across this sweater called Monterrio by Stephanie Talent, and I just fell in love with it. I thought it was very wearable, good style for me. I just loved it. And so I went stash diving, and I came up with some yarn that I have had forever. I don't even remember where I got it. And it is this Queensland Collection Rustic Tweed. And it's color 904, which is, according to Ravelry, the color number or color name is Green Donegal. And so I bought the pattern right away and I knit up the swatch. I'm just trying to think. I think it's that way. Yeah, that way. And got pretty well bang on gauge first time around, and so I cast it on. So isn't that beautiful? So basically you have this yoke that is all these beautiful cables, and then you switch to, I guess it would actually go like that, because this would be where the body is. So kind of transitions, that's the word I'm looking for, into this broken rib for the body and the bottoms of the sleeves. So I didn't cast it on right away. I did my swatch, and then I was just in the mood to do some swatching. So I swatched a lot, actually. As you know, I've talked about it many times. My plan, now that this is done, is to knit, so I'm just going to reach here where I have some patterns stacked. My plan is to knit Dogwood Blossoms by Karen Dimler Lawrence of Knit Picks. And I bought the yarn for this a little while ago. So it's Dogwood Blossoms. I am doing this color way, but in this style, cardigan style. And so I had some leftover Knit Picks palette that my daughter had given to me, and so I didn't break into my new yarn. I just started swatching with some yarn that she had. So I swatched over 64 stitches in the round, did magic loop, and then I cut it open to block it and to measure. So the pattern calls for a 2.5 millimeter needle. I started out with 2.25 because I often knit more loosely. Then I moved to the 2.5, and then this last section I did 2.75. And when all is said and done, the 2.75 works out the closest to the pattern gauge. And so that's the needles I'm going to use for it. Now, what was I going to say? What I decided, the pattern starts with ribbing at the bottom. It's done from the bottom up, and you steek it after. You steek where the sleeves are, and you steek where the front is. I was thinking, rather than cast on and do the ribbing, I think what I'm going to do is cast on the color work provisionally, both at the bottom of the sweater and at the bottom of the sleeves. Then I can knit the body and sleeves, and then I can adjust my ribbing accordingly. I do have a long torso, and I may decide I want the cardigan, especially the cardigan, maybe a little bit longer. And that way, if my row gauge isn't quite right, I will have some wiggle room. So that's my plan. However, before I cast on for this sweater, I am going to finish my what is the pattern? Songbird mittens first. I have them out in the living room. I made a point of taking my project bag and pattern out there to where I knit and put it there, and I have finished one complete mitten and I have not cast on the second. So until I finish that mitten, I'm not letting myself cast on another colorwork project. So look for that soon, because I am very motivated to cast this one on. But wait, there's more. So I was thinking about, okay, I've got, a complex cabled sweater. I have a complex colorwork sweater. What I really wanted was a more plain sweater that I could also work on. So I went sort of stash diving and kind of pattern hunting, and I pulled this yarn out. This is Tamar, Blacker Yarns Tamar Luster Blend. This is the Trazillion colorway, and it's just says 100% pure wool, pure new wool. It's a non-superwash wool. Has a little bit of a toothy feeling, but I swatched up for one particular sweater, which was actually, the sample was knit in this same yarn, and that sweater is called Gingerbread by Libby Johnson. So I've got it here on my iPad. I can show you. I've had it in my favorites for quite a while, and it's a very basic casual sweater with some interesting stitch detail on the cuffs and hems. So that was my original thought, and I swatched for it and I got the right gauge, pretty well the right gauge right away. But then one of my goals this year is to knit a sweater by Jennifer Wood. I talked about that a week or two ago. And another sweater that has that same gauge is called Owen. Now, of course, I don't own that pattern. Of course, it has to be one that's not in my refined knits book, but it looks like this in the front. And then it looks like this in the back. So again, some really interesting cable work. So I have decided that that's what I'm going to use this yarn for. But because I already have a cabled project going, I thought I would wait and cast that one on later. But I still wanted to have a sweater that was, fairly plain. And so I dug out some other yarn from my stash, which is this Cascade 220 Superwash Effects yarn that I got in a really good sale from Unit in Toronto. This is the Lightning Storm colorway. That's how it knits up. It's really pretty. I kind of got gray and purple in there, some lighter, kind of light gray or light purple. I think it's really fun yarn. Anyway, I came across a pattern called Payday by Sweater Freak, and it looks like this. Just a really basic top down raglan, and everything's pretty basic stockinette till you get to the bottom, and then you get some fun lace. Sort of a similar idea to that gingerbread one that I was looking at. So I did cast this one on yesterday. Oh, I forgot to show you my Monterrio. I cast it on. I'll show that to you in a second. Got so excited while talking about swatching. So anyway, here I've got the very beginning of Payday cast on. That's the back. I've just sort of joined it together, did some short rows to form the neckline here, and then I've joined it, started knitting. So not too far into that one. The only thing, I was looking at the pattern a little bit more closely, and this is an A-line sweater. It's not just that it's straight, they actually do increase for the hips. And I have not decided quite how I'm going to treat that. I don't know if I'm just going to leave it, knit it straight, or if I'll knit it A-line like it shows. Sometimes A-line's not necessarily the most flattering silhouette for me. What I might do is knit it straight but add a bit of waist shaping rather than increasing it to an A-line. I guess I'll have to make sure my lace works. In any case, I think it's really pretty. It's not going to detract the kind of, what do you call it? Where did it go? This kind of, it's not tweedy look, this kind of speckled, no, it's not even speckled. I don't even know what to call this. That look anyway is not going to detract from that simple lace pattern. It'll be just a nice, comfy, kind of casual sweater. That's the idea anyway. They'll throw it on with a pair of jeans, and we'll actually wear it kind of around the house. I make a lot of sweaters. I don't wear a lot of sweaters, partly because it does get too warm, partly because, especially this year, I've mostly just been wearing my yoga pants, and a sweater seems a bit fancy for a pair of yoga pants. But if I had something casual like that, I could pull that on over a pair of yoga pants and be fine. So back to Monterrio, because this has been really fun. I have never done a saddle shoulder before, and so I always love learning new things, and I'm really pleased with how this is coming along so far. So first thing is to cast on the neck and do some 1x1 rib, and I cast it on with the alternating cable cast on. I really like that finish for a 1x1 rib. Almost looks like a tubular cast on, but way easier, and it has plenty of stretch. Goes over my head, no problem. So then once you do that, you knit like a rectangle off of the neck with these cables. Then you do the same on the other side, and then you pick up stitches along that rectangle, work around the neck, pick them up along the other side of the rectangle for the front, and then you do the same for the back. And they tell you to do it separately, but I'm working them at the same time because the front and the back are identical. So I've just been put them on a long circular needle, and I'm just working on them, row on the front, row on the back, so that kind of, not only will my gauge be the same, but I won't have to get mixed up with the cabling. Plus I'll be able to get to the point where I can try this on and make sure it's going to be the right size, because that's the only thing I'm kind of struggling with. I fall in between the sizes listed. I knit slightly larger than the gauge it was called for. And when I tried to figure out, well, how many stitches do I have around and how big is this going to be, the gauge that they list with the finished measurements, the gauge and the finished measurements just don't seem to jive with the stitch count. Especially when it comes to the bottom of the sweater here. because they're saying you have the same amount of stitches on your bodice as you do, this is just knit straight down, but this garter rib has quite a bit bigger stitch gauge than the cables do. And yet they only show, I think it's a half an inch difference in width between here and here. It just doesn't make sense mathematically. So because I didn't want this to end up being really huge, I've decided to go with the second size, which is, let's see here. Sorry, I should have had that information here right in front of me. Their finished measurements, they say, are 33, 36.5 is the second size, and then 40. And it says to be worn with 4 to 5 inches of positive ease, but I never like having a sweater that big. So I'm going with the 36.5, hoping it turns out slightly bigger than that and that it'll fit me okay. And actually, having measured this one today and knowing that it's 36, just over 36 inches around, gives me sort of a more comforting feeling that it will in fact be okay if it's the same size around. So because there was one picture, I think it's on the website, where it looks fine from the front, but there's one on the website that just looks like it has a lot of extra fabric on the back, and I just don't feel comfortable in a baggy sweater like that. So wish me luck. Once it gets down to where I have to join the front and back to work around for the body, I'll be able to try it on and get a better sense. And then once you do that with these saddle shoulders, then you pick up along the side from that, like where you join them, you pick up along the side of the yoke, knit across these held stitches on the saddle shoulder, and then pick up down the back along here, and then you work your sleeve out from there. So it'd be really interesting. I always enjoy new construction methods, and it's definitely way simpler than I always thought a saddle shoulder was going to be. So I'm encouraged by that, and I'm enjoying the cables so far, and I think it's just enough cabling that by the time I get to the bottom of this yoke part and into the garter rib, I think I'll be ready for something a little simpler. And then maybe I will cast on that other sweater with the cables. We'll see. Normally, I'm not, I don't know if, no, I shouldn't say. I was going to say I don't know if anyone likes doing swatches, because some people really love doing swatches. And I wouldn't say I hate them, but most of the time I'm just ready to get on with the project. I think that's why a lot of us avoid them. I really appreciated that this sweater pattern actually had a swatch chart for you to do. So that was perfect. It's just a good amount of knitting. You've got lots of stitches you can measure over. I was very appreciative of that, because sometimes you just get a pattern that says, this over cable pattern, and when you have a complicated cable pattern like that, where do you even start and stop on a swatch? So found that very helpful. This I'm definitely glad I did, because I ended up going bigger than I expected to. And I also got a taste of what the pattern's going to look like, and I found out I had to print the charts on usually when I print a pattern, I'll just do it on the fast setting, because it doesn't usually need, the color. Sometimes I don't even print color like this. I just did that black and white because I can see what the picture looks like. When I printed the chart in the fast thing, this is for instance, that's the fast printing. The chart did not come out as well as it should have. So in fact, I missed the fact that there were, along in here, there's actually supposed to be more than just this one color It's actually a combination of colors, which didn't matter for the sake of swatching, but I realized that I was going to have to print these out in a much better condition in order to do that sweater. So I did do that. I shouldn't have any trouble now. But yeah, man, it takes a lot of ink. But aren't they complicated? But this is going to be challenging, but fun, I think. And I was thinking about it that I know when I first start, I'm going to be gung-ho and I'll, work on it a fair bit. But then I know myself, it's going to be something I stall out on. So I was thinking about when my longest night shawl kind of reaches, it's finished or is reaching close to completion, then what I might do is start doing that color work sweater, like a row every day or something like that, just to keep it current and keep my interest. That's the plan anyway. Right now I've got so many project plans running through my head, it's not funny. Way more than I can possibly, knit in a small space of time. Okay, speaking of, I have some acquisitions. And one of them is a new project. So there was one of the people who's taking part in the 2020 Gal Cal knit this juniper and cedar shawl. I'm actually going to show you. I've got it on my iPad too. And I think it's a free pattern. Yeah, it's a free pattern from Aberdeen's Wool Company. There's a good look at it there. And it's knit with 5 minis. And I liked it, and I actually downloaded the pattern for it very soon after I saw hers. And I thought I would use some other skeins that I had in my stash. And then, and I don't know, I guess because it was Aberdeen's yarn, was it Aberdeen's Yarn Company, or is that what it's called? I want to get it right. Aberdeen's Wool Company. I assumed it was in the UK or Scotland, overseas. So I thought, well, I'll just find some minis that I like. And then for this, sorry, this is taking a long time. Words are starting to fail me here. Now that we're doing the Making Time for Me Cal, another person, inspired by the first person, just finished hers. And what she said is that it came in like this little jar. How cute is that? And I realized it was from Canada. It was from Ontario. So I took a look at it. The price was actually really reasonable. And I just thought, what a fun way to present the yarn. So this arrived in the mail today. I have to say, after handling this package, I was very careful, washed my hands really well, because it's been in Mississauga, Ontario, in their postal facility for a little while now. It took quite a while to reach me. And I suspect that's because the postal facility there has had a really bad COVID-19 outbreak. Lots of employees were either sick or self-isolating. Sadly, at least one worker has died. So I just took no chances. I wasn't worried about it in the package. It had been in the package long enough that it was okay, but I handled the box it came in very carefully and washed my hands really well after. I'm sure it was fine, but I wasn't going to take any chances. Anyway, so this is something I think I'm going to cast on pretty soon because why wouldn't I? I have my lace weight shawl, but it's nice to have a fingering weight shawl. They definitely work up faster and are less delicate to work with. The mail also brought me another lovely set, well, 2 lovely sets of minis. These are from Midnight Cravings, yarn company that's in Saskatchewan. I've seen this company at Knit City a couple of times now, and I've bought yarn from them before. And these are their, what do they call them? Kindred Spirits samplers. Thought I had written it down. Yeah, Kindred Spirits bite-size minis and tonals. So I bought each. They come in either the tonals or the speckles. I bought one of each, and I love that they packaged them together. So these are colors that are inspired by Anne of Green Gables characters and references. And so I'll just go through them here. So this is Marilla Cuthbert, and this one is Amethyst Brooch. This one is Matthew Cuthbert, and this one is Puffed Sleeves. So of course Anne always wanted a dress with puffed sleeves. This one is Rachel Lynn, and this is Afternoon Tea. This is Anne with an E. This is Green Gables. This is Diana Berry. I can't remember her last name. This is Raspberry Cordial, and if you've ever read the books, you know exactly what that reference is. And then this is Gilbert Blythe, and this is Broken Slate. So again, you will understand that reference. So I just think they're really fun. They had, whoops, I get their newsletter, and they announced they just had their 4th anniversary, so congratulations to them. It's a sister team, and they had a code for their subscribers, so I decided to indulge and pick up these skeins. One of the projects I have in mind, although I really only need 10 for this project, 10, not 12, is this Anne of Green Gables cowl. It's a sampler. It is by Joanna Johnson, who has written like is it Annie and the Swiss Cheese Scarf, that series of books. And it's originally been knit in 6 and 7 fibers, Anne of Green Gables colored inspired set, which I have looked at also, but never actually pulled the trigger on. So I may do something like that. I like that this cowl has all these different stitch patterns, so it's an interesting knit. Not only are you switching colors, you're switching patterns, or not. Maybe I'll do a shawl with these. I'm not sure. I don't know what I'm doing. I just know that you get a really good look at them there. They're just really pretty, and I'm glad to own them. And that can marinate for a while. I'm tempted to make something for my younger sister because she has read all these books and done a lot of other I was gonna say, how can this good Canadian girl forget Lucy Maud Montgomery's name? But I did for a second. She's read a lot of her other books, as have I, and she's read a lot of biography and such on her. So sort of thought about making something for her, but the truth is I'm probably too selfish for that, and I want them for myself. There, I'm a bad person. Okay, I think is that everything I meant to mention? I believe so. It's about time, huh? As far as what's going on around here, not too much, except that if you've been watching recently or for a long time, You'll know that we had a bad windstorm a couple of weeks ago that blew our resin shed apart and made some of it land in our neighbor's yard. So we've realized that that type of shed is just not suitable for where we live, where it's situated. It just gets too much wind, I guess, apparently. um, and so originally we thought it was beyond repair because some of the pieces were warped and screws were ripped out. Um, Now that it's had time now that it's no longer under tension because my husband took it all apart, those pieces that were warped have settled back into shape. But there may be some places where it needs some kind of fix because the plastic or the resin around the screws will now be too big. The screws won't hold, but there must be a solution to that. In any case, we have been looking around to see if anybody wants to take a chance on it, if they want to try it out and see if it works. And it looks like one of my husband's coworkers is going to take it and see if it works. If it doesn't, there's nothing lost, but a little bit of time trying to put it together. And then we've decided to go with a wooden shed and got a couple of different quotes from people and have decided on the company we're going with. And so that is probably going to begin, he's probably going to begin work in a couple of weeks on that. So within a few weeks, we should have, maybe by a month from now or so, we'll have our new shed. And because it's being sort of built from scratch, we were able to customize some things, and it will be painted and have the same roof shingles. We're getting our roof done this spring, so we're going to choose the shingles, get them from our roofer to pass on to the guy building our shed. So we'll be able to make our colors like match our house. So it'll look like it really belongs back there. I'm also going to get a couple of window boxes put on the windows, and thinking I might put my herbs in there this year because I did grow some basil last year and the year before, and I was thinking that might be a good place to put some herbs to use over the summer. If not, I'll put some flowers, and we can run our drip line from our garden up into the window boxes to water them. And I also want to do more tomato plants next year and put them along the concrete area that's adjacent to the shed. We'll only have one door in this shed. So if you were watching before and I showed you that we had got our concrete work done and put up our shed, and that I had got them to build this sort of concrete apron a little bit too short on one side, and then it ended partway through the door. Well, now that's not going to be an issue because that whole side is going to be blank. So as much as we're sorry to have lost the money that we put into the shed and the time building it and the, all of that, in the end, probably this new shed will be better overall. And so in a way, you got to look at the bright side of things, right? So I think in the end, we're going to be happier with this one anyway. It's also going to be taller, so we'll have more vertical storage space too. So that's a good thing. That's sort of an end note. So our son is getting married. Originally, they were going to get married at the end of June up at our cabin property. And then they were still planning it, but just with fewer people because of COVID. And I'm not even sure all the decisions that went into it, but they've now moved it up to the end of April. And it's just going to be local, and it's just going to be a few people. Right now, we're only allowed to have 10 people in total at a wedding ceremony, and no reception allowed. So we're not quite sure. They're not 100% sure exactly where they're holding it, possibly in our yard. In any case, I need to get a dress. So I started looking online, and I'm not a shopper. I'm a yarn shopper. I'm a yarn shopper and a sweater planner, project planner, but I do not enjoy clothes shopping. and I avoid it. And usually when I go, if I find, something I like and they have it in more than one color, I'll buy like three in three different colors. So now I have to go try and find a dress. And not only do I have to try and find it, I have to try and find it online, because I'm looking at the online shops of places where I like to shop in person, but you can check availability at your stores, and they're not available at my stores that are nearby. And so I think I'm going to order a number of them online, try them on, and then I can return them to these stores that are local, not have to ship them back. But at least I can try them on, um, and see. So, yeah, I just don't enjoy it, but hopefully I'll find something. And of course, when you start looking, then it's okay, what size am I? Trying to figure that out. And then you find out you're bigger than you think you are, because you've been eating Christmas cookies and chocolates, and other good things, and not exercising as much as you should. And so that's also on my mind. I've really got to get back into better habits. So hopefully by the end of April, I can lose a couple pounds, tone up a little, and find some decent dress. So wish me luck. All right, something good. It's my mom's birthday today. She turned 84 today. When my sister went up before Christmas with all the Christmas gifts from us, she lives about 3 hours drive from where I am, for those of you who are new. Yeah, when my sister took up all her Christmas gifts, we also all sent birthday gifts for her at the same time. So she opened those today, and then another sister had the idea to send flowers to her earlier this week. Because even though she lives in a little small town, there's a woman there who has set up a florist business, and she gets flowers in once a week. And so we decided, let's get them while they're fresh. So we sent them a few days earlier, but she was really surprised to get those. So I think, despite being alone, and none of us can be there to celebrate with her, I think she's had a good birthday week anyway. Most years, my husband and I are go and visit her somewhere around her birthday, and usually take her out for dinner and get to celebrate in some way. And this year, again, like many of us, we're spending our birthdays at home and not able to celebrate with a lot of our loved ones, but at least not in person. Speaking of birthdays, it's our older granddaughter's birthday on the 1st. And so I imagine we will do a video chat with her and the family, and have birthday cake with her like we've done for her siblings. And so unfortunately, she's not only not able to have like any sort of birthday party, she also has to spend it in quarantine. So that's kind of a bummer. But she does turn 16 this year, which means she's old enough to get her learner's license. And she doesn't, I don't know if she knows it or not, but her gift from her parents is driving lessons. So there'll be one more driver out there on the road pretty soon. So that's exciting birthday for her, sweet 60. Okay, that's a much happier note to leave things on. So I think this has probably gone on far too long as it is. Anyway, so thank you for spending time with me today, all of this time. I hope you are all well and healthy, and that you will remain so until I see you next time, hopefully another week or so from now. So yeah, have a great week, and I'll see you soon. Bye.